The rain hit Chloe's apartment windows, a steady beat that matched the turmoil in her chest. It had been a difficult day at the gallery, managing an exhibition of abstract paintings that expressed feelings she couldn't quite identify. Her reddish-brown hair was wet, sticking to her neck as she removed her boots, placed her keys on the counter, and shook out her umbrella. Her apartment was her sanctuary, small, filled with art supplies, and wonderfully her own. So when she turned on the living room light and saw him standing there, her breath caught like a brush on a rough canvas. He was leaning against her bookshelf, one hand turning the pages of her well-used copy of The Great Gatsby, the other in the pocket of tailored pants. Older, perhaps in his mid-30s, with dark hair that was almost neat and a jawline sharp enough to cut through her composure. His navy blazer was slightly wrinkled, as if he had come from an important place, and his storm-gray eyes met hers, sparkling with a slow, uneven smile that felt like a shared secret. "You must be Chloe," he said, his voice low and warm, like whiskey over ice. Her heart did a disloyal flip. A stranger in her apartment should have made her grab her phone, dial 911, maybe scream. But something about his relaxed manner, the way he held her book as if he belonged there, kept her rooted to the spot. "And you are?" she managed, crossing her arms to hide the flutter in her chest, her tone sharp but tinged with curiosity. "Elliot." Elliot Kane. He closed the book with a soft thud, setting it down as he moved closer, not too close, but enough to make the air feel charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. "I'm here about the apartment. Your landlord sent me. Said you might be looking for a subletter." Chloe blinked, her mind racing to catch up. The landlord. She vaguely remembered mentioning, months ago during a rent increase panic, that she might need a roommate if her gallery hours were reduced. But she hadn't posted an ad, hadn't followed through, hadn't expected this. "I didn't know he was sending anyone," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "And you just let yourself in?" Elliot's smile widened, a hint of mischief in it. "The door was unlocked. Figured I'd wait inside, out of the rain." "Didn't mean to startle you." His gaze swept over her, lingering just long enough to make her acutely aware of her damp blouse and the likely disarray of her hair. "I can leave if you want. But I'd rather stay and present my case." Her pulse quickened. Present his case. The way he said it, smooth and confident, made her want to hear more, even if every logical part of her brain screamed stranger danger. She gestured to the couch, trying to regain control. "Fine. Sit. Explain why you're lurking around my apartment like some literary burglar." He chuckled, a low sound that sent a shiver down her spine, and sat on the couch, stretching one arm along the backrest. "Literary burglar. I like that. Guilty, though I'm more fond of Fitzgerald than stealing." He patted the cushion beside him, a playful challenge in his eyes. "Join me?" Chloe hesitated, then chose the armchair across from him, the coffee table a flimsy barrier between them. "Start talking, Elliot Kane. Why should I let a stranger move into my place?" He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that felt like a brushstroke across her skin. "I'm a writer. Freelance, mostly travel pieces, some fiction. I'm in town for a few months, working on a novel. Need a place that's not a soulless Airbnb. Your landlord said you're an artist, so I thought we might connect. Creative types, you know?" His lips twitched, teasing. "Plus, I'm tidy, I pay on time, and I make a great cappuccino." She raised an eyebrow, fighting the smile tugging at her lips. "You're selling yourself pretty hard for a guy who broke into my apartment." "Unlocked door," he corrected, holding up a finger, his grin unapologetic. "And I'm not breaking in. I'm auditioning for the role of ideal roommate." Chloe laughed, the sound easing the tension in her chest. He had a certain charm, a blend of confidence and appeal that made her want to continue this interaction, despite the potential danger. "Okay, make your case. Why shouldn't I remove you from here immediately?" Elliot leaned back, observing her as if she were a blank canvas he was eager to fill. "Because you are interested," he stated simply. "You entered, saw me, and instead of contacting law enforcement, you are here, speaking with me. That indicates you are not averse to a bit of excitement. And I suspect you are tired of the usual routine. Am I incorrect? Her breathing faltered. He was correct. Her days had been a monotonous cycle of gallery work, late-night drawing, and occasional wine evenings with friends who didn't truly understand her. The thought of something, or someone, new, disrupting her life, was appealing. Perilous, yet appealing. You are remarkably self-assured, she remarked, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, aware of his eyes following the movement. What leads you to believe I am seeking an adventure? His gaze softened, but the intensity remained. Because you possess that expression. As if you are anticipating something to occur. Something genuine, his voice lowered, acquiring a smooth quality. And I am adept at making things happen. The atmosphere grew dense, charged with energy. Chloe's cheeks flushed, and she stood abruptly, needing to move, to break the enchantment he was casting. Okay, persuasive speaker. What is the drawback? You aren't secretly a drummer who practices at 3 a.m., are you? Elliot chuckled, also standing, his height making the room seem smaller. No drums. I promise. The drawback is, I am a nocturnal person. I might be awake writing while you are asleep. But I am quiet about it. And I will ensure a constant supply of coffee to compensate. She folded her arms, tilting her head. You believe coffee is sufficient to persuade me? He took a step closer, just enough to make her heart rate accelerate. I believe you are already captivated. But I am willing to improve the offer. How about dinner? My treat, to demonstrate I am a worthwhile prospect. Dinner? She raised an eyebrow, her tone playful but her heart pounding. You move quickly, Elliot Kane. Only when I know what I desire, he said, his voice soft but firm, his eyes holding hers in a way that made her feel understood, vulnerable, desired. Chloe swallowed, her mind a conflict of caution and excitement. I will consider it, she said, stepping back to regain her personal space. But you are not moving in tonight. And I will be locking the door from now on. He grinned, unfazed. Fair enough. I will return tomorrow. To give you time to decide if I am worth the gamble. He picked up his coat, slinging it over his shoulder. But Chloe? He paused at the door, looking back. I predict you will agree. The door closed with a click, and Chloe exhaled, her legs feeling weak. She collapsed onto the couch, his scent, sandalwood and something warm, lingering. Her apartment now felt too quiet, too empty. As she replayed his words, that crooked smile, the way he had looked at her as if she were the only person in the room, she knew one thing: Elliot Kane was trouble. The kind she was unsure she could resist. The following morning, Chloe awoke with a restless energy. The gallery awaited, but her thoughts were on Elliot. His voice, his self-assurance, the way he had identified her curiosity as if he could see directly into her. She messaged her landlord, confirming Elliot's legitimacy, a writer with strong references, no issues. But that didn't calm her nerves. It wasn't about his qualifications. It was about how he made her feel alive, like a blank canvas awaiting bold new strokes. She spent her lunch break drawing in the gallery's back room, her pencil outlining a stormy sea, all blues and grays. The image felt like a reflection of her mood, turbulent, wild. She wondered if Elliot would see himself in it, the way he seemed to see her in everything. The thought made her cheeks flush, and she closed the sketchbook when her coworker, Mia, peeked in. Who's got you all flustered? Mia teased, her eyes sparkling. Tell me, Chloe. Is it that writer guy the landlord mentioned? Chloe laughed, dismissing it. Just focused on work, she lied, but Mia's knowing smile stayed with her for the rest of the day. When she arrived home, a note was slipped under her door. Chloe, dinner's at 7. La Bella Vita, down the street. I'll be waiting. E. Her heart fluttered. No phone number, no way to cancel without standing him up. Bold move. She should have been annoyed, but she was smiling. By 6:45, she stood before her mirror, second-guessing the emerald green dress that accentuated her figure. Too much? Too obvious? But Elliot's gaze last night, the way it lingered, made her want to feel daring. She slipped on heels, grabbed her purse, and headed out before she could overthink it. La Bella Vita was a cozy Italian restaurant, all candlelight and soft jazz. Elliot was at a corner table, looking unfairly handsome in a charcoal sweater that hugged his shoulders. He stood when he saw her, his eyes sweeping over her in a way that made her skin tingle. "You came," he said, pulling out her chair with a grin. "I was half expecting you to leave me waiting." "I considered it," she teased, sitting down. "But I figured I'd give you a chance to prove you're not just a charming trespasser." He laughed, leaning forward. "Challenge accepted. Though I'm warning you, I'm very good at being charming." The waiter brought wine, and they fell into an easy rhythm, exchanging stories over plates of pasta and bruschetta. Elliot talked about his travels, writing in a cliffside cafe in Santorini, a rainy pub in Dublin, a bustling market in Marrakesh. His words painted vivid pictures, and Chloe hung on every syllable, her artist's soul absorbing it. She shared her own stories, too, her first disastrous gallery opening, the time she accidentally spilled paint on a client's shoes, the quiet nights when she'd sketch until dawn, chasing a feeling she couldn't name. "You make it sound so glamorous," she said, twirling her wineglass. "Meanwhile, I'm stuck convincing rich people to buy art they don't understand." He leaned closer, his knee brushing hers under the table, a fleeting jolt that sent her pulse racing. "You're underestimating yourself. I saw your sketches last night. You're not just a curator, Chloe. You're an artist. A good one." And her cheeks warmed. "You were snooping through my sketches, too?" "Literary burglar, confirmed guilty," he said, unrepentant. "But I'm serious. Your work has fire. Passion. You should be showing it, not hiding it." She looked down, suddenly shy under his gaze. "It is not that simple. The art world is brutal. I am not sure I am ready to expose myself." "You are ready," he said softly, his voice a challenge. "You just need someone to remind you how brave you can be." Dinner passed in a blur of laughter and lingering looks. Every touch of his hand, passing bread, reaching for wine, made her heart race. By the time they stepped outside, the rain had ceased, leaving the air fresh and cool. They walked back to her apartment, the silence thick with unspoken thoughts. The city hummed around them, but it felt like they were in their own world, the world narrowed to the space between them. At her door, she turned to face him, keys dangling in her hand. "So," she said, her voice lighter than she felt. "Dinner was persuasive. But I am still not sure about you moving in." Elliot stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell that sandalwood again. "Not sure," he murmured, his eyes searching hers. "Or not ready to admit you want me around?" Her breath hitched. The flotation, the tension, it was a tightrope, and she was wavering. "You are dangerous," she whispered, half laughing, half serious. "Only the good kind," he said, his smile slow and deliberate. "The kind that makes you feel alive." She unlocked the door, her hand trembling slightly. "I will let you know about the apartment," she said, stepping inside. "But do not get too comfortable." Elliot Kane. His laugh followed her as she closed the door, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out the city. She leaned against the door, exhaling shakily. Dangerous desires, indeed. Over the next few days, Elliot became a regular presence in her life, even without Elise. He would show up at the gallery with coffee, claiming he was just passing by, his grin betraying the falsehood. He would text her snippets of his writing, a poetic line about a sunset, a fragment of dialogue from his novel, and ask for her opinion, making her blush at how his words seemed to echo the spark between them. Every interaction crackled with that same flirty tension, a push and pull that left her disoriented. One afternoon, he appeared at the gallery during a rare quiet moment, holding a leather-bound sketchbook. "Found this at a vintage shop," he said, handing it to her. "Thought it might inspire you." Her fingers brushed his as she took it, the contact sending a spark up her arm. The pages were thick, creamy, inviting ink. You did not have to do this, she said, touched. I wanted to, he replied, his voice soft. I want to see what you do with it. That night, she sketched for the first time in weeks, her pencil flying across the pages, fueled by the memory of his eyes on her. She drew a stormy sea, all blues and grays, the waves crashing with a passion she had not accessed in months. The next day, she showed him the sketch at a coffee shop near the gallery, her hands nervous as she slid it across the table. He studied it, his expression unreadable, then said, "This is you, Chloe. Wild and untamed. Do not ever hide this." Her heart skipped a beat. No one had ever described her work, or her, like that. It was as if he saw the parts of her she kept hidden, and instead of fleeing, he was drawn to them. You are too good at this, she said, trying to keep her tone light. Making me feel like I am more than I am. You are more than you think, he said, his eyes holding hers. And I am not going anywhere until you believe it. The moment stretched, heavy with potential, until the barista called her name for a refill, bringing them back to reality. But the spark lingered, a promise of more. On Friday, Elliot convinced her to let him cook dinner at her place, to prove my roommate credentials, he said with a wink. She watched him move around her kitchen, chopping herbs with practiced ease, his sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. The sight was distracting, and she caught herself staring more than once. You are staring, he said without looking up, a smirk in his voice. I am not, she lied, busying herself with setting the table. He glanced over, eyes catching hers. You are, and I don't mind. Dinner was delicious, herb-crusted chicken, roasted vegetables, a bottle of red wine, but the real heat was in the way he looked at her across the table, the way his foot nudged hers under it, lingering just a moment too long. After, they sat on the couch, a movie playing in the background, but neither was watching. The space between them buzzed like a live wire. Chloe, he said, his voice low, turning to face her. I'm not just here for the apartment. You know that, right? Her heart stuttered. I suspected. He reached out, his fingers brushing her wrist, light but deliberate. Good. Because I'm not good at pretending I don't want something. And I want to know you. Really know you, she swallowed, her voice unsteady. Your trouble, Elliot, maybe, he said, his thumb tracing a slow circle on her wrist. But you're not running. That's gotta mean something. She didn't run. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into the moment, the heat of his touch, the promise of something more. The next morning, Chloe woke to a text from Mia, Spill, Chloe. Is this writer guy as charming as he sounds? She laughed, typing a vague reply, but her mind was on Elliot. She was supposed to meet him at a local art market that afternoon. He'd insisted on tagging along, claiming he needed inspiration for his novel. The market was a riot of color and sound, stalls brimming with handmade jewelry, pottery, and paintings. Elliot was at her side, his shoulder brushing hers as they navigated the crowd. He stopped at a stall with vibrant watercolors, pointing to one of a stormy sky. This reminds me of your sketch, he said, his voice low, meant just for her. All that passion, barely contained. She flushed, nudging him playfully. You're obsessed with my sketches. I'm obsessed with you, he said, his tone teasing but his eyes serious. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the market faded away, leaving just the two of them. They spent hours wandering, sharing a pretzel from a food cart, their fingers brushing as they passed it back and forth. Every touch, every glance, was a spark, building the tension until it felt like a physical weight. At one stall, Chloe lingered over a pair of silver earrings, delicate and shaped like crescent moons. Elliot noticed, and before she could protest, he'd bought them, handing her the small bag with a grin. Consider it a bribe, he said. For the apartment. Or, just because I wanted to see you smile. Her cheeks burned as she tucked the bag into her purse. You're relentless, she said, but her voice was soft, her smile betraying her. By the time they reached her apartment, the air was thick with unspoken words. At her door, she turned to him, her heart racing. You're making this hard, she said, half laughing. I'm supposed to be deciding if you're a good roommate, not Whatever this is. Elliot stepped closer, his hand resting lightly on the doorframe above her. Forget the apartment for a second, he said, his voice a low rumble. What do you want, Chloe? Her mouth went dry. What did she want? Safety, routine, the life she knew? Or this, him, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her? I don't know, she whispered, but her eyes betrayed her, lingering on his lips. He smiled, slow and knowing. You do. You're just not saying it yet. She opened the door, stepping back, her voice shaky but playful. Good night, Elliot Kane. I will inform you about the apartment. His laughter was gentle, comforting. Good night, Chloe. But I am staying right here. The following week, Chloe's world felt as if it were shifting. The gallery was hosting a temporary exhibition, a high-stakes event that could either establish or ruin her reputation as a curator. She immersed herself in it, but Elliot was constantly on her mind. He had begun leaving small messages around her apartment, slipped under her door, tucked into her mailbox, each one a fragment of his writing or a playful challenge. I saw a painting today that reminded me of you. Too daring for the gallery? Or, I bet I can guess your favorite color by the end of the week. Hint, it is not blue. Each note brought a smile to her face, made her heart beat faster, made her wonder how someone she had known for barely a week could affect her so profoundly. She had not given him an answer about the apartment, but the truth was, she was not sure she could refuse, not the apartment, and certainly not him. On the night of the temporary exhibit, Chloe was a bundle of nerves. The gallery was crowded, the atmosphere buzzing with critics, collectors, and artists. She wore a sleek black dress, her hair styled upwards, but her confidence faltered as she overheard a critic dismiss one of her chosen pieces. Then she saw Elliot, navigating through the crowd, a glass of champagne in hand. He looked effortlessly handsome in a tailored blazer, his eyes meeting hers across the room. I thought you could use some assistance, he said, handing her the glass. You are doing an amazing job, by the way. She took a sip, grateful for the diversion. I feel overwhelmed. These people are merciless. He moved closer, his voice hushed. They are just background noise. You possess vision, Chloe. Trust it. His words calmed her, and when he remained by her side for the rest of the night, charming critics and making her laugh, she felt like she could breathe freely again. As the crowd diminished, he leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. You were outstanding tonight. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Her heart pounded, and she turned to face him, their faces mere inches apart. You are too skilled at this, she whispered. Appearing when I need you. Get accustomed to it, he said, his smile gentle but his eyes intense. I am not going anywhere. The exhibit was a triumph, but Chloe's thoughts were on Elliot as she walked home alone, the city quiet beneath a starry sky. She had not made a decision about the apartment, but she knew one thing, Elliot Kane had captivated her, igniting a passion she was not sure she wanted to extinguish. At her door, she discovered another note, you shone brightly tonight. Agree to the apartment, Chloe. Or at least to coffee tomorrow. She smiled, pressing the note to her chest. The apartment decision could wait. For now, she was drawn into the allure of Elliot Kane, and the excitement of it, the peril of it, was too captivating to resist.